Take a look at what happened.
This is one of the most amazing video clips you'll ever see. It's not too long, so watch till the end. It's about 2 minutes. Hi, I'm Dick Allgaier here at Ethereum Place in Honolulu, Hawaii. We just witnessed one of the most historic events of our lifetimes, of human history. We're in momentous times. We are a future forecasting group, and we forecast future events using remote viewing. And the clip I'm going to show you was something we published on our website, and we published details of it on YouTube. This was witnessed by our subscribers and thousands of people. It is my colleague, Naeem Vendreas, doing a remote viewing session outlining a near future event, and this was published about 60 to 90 days before it happened. All right, this is Naeem's prediction.
And then, yeah, here I see a person in front of a crowd. And it feels, the mood there is kind of like congratulations, like clapping, cheering, honor, charisma. Then someone's up in a higher level, and the sense I get there is like sharpshooter or murder, assassin type feel. And it was really hard for me to do more work on this without it being ruined by just noise and imagination. So I kind of stopped there. So that was, in both my sessions, I had a assassination type data. So yeah, see what happens.
If you are not consciously or spiritually awaking after COVID, with all the deception that took place, and indeed is continuing in many instances, along with the overt advancement of totalitarianism by the powers that be, then you have a problem with perception. You are being manipulated. A great sorting is taking place where we are being divided as a species. And it doesn't necessarily mean a left or right-wing political divide. It's more like a who's asleep and who is awakening kind of partitioning. To say that we are living through interesting times is barely scratching the surface. In 2020, we saw the breaking of the first seal as recorded in the book of Revelation, when everything changed through the COVID nightmare. This year, we are seeing the second seal broken, with the taking of peace away from the earth. The recent assassination attempt on former President Donald Trump has exacerbated this event. That is, the taking of peace from the earth. The US is more polarized now than ever before, and this incident is not going to help remedy that situation, but divide us even further, stoking more hate. I mentioned in the last video how the elites are in panic mode because of a popular uprising taking place. This desperation is driving them to overstep lines of demarcation. The assassination attempt, because all other strategies have failed in trying to jail Trump or drive him out of the presidential race, is just further proof, as I'm sure we will see as more details emerge. I think we must acknowledge that most ordinary people are decent folk, be they on the left or the right of the political spectrum. Despite political views or religious beliefs, most individuals have basic compassion and empathy for others. Most are not sociopaths or psychopaths, but are driven by fundamental human motivations, such as altruism, kindness, or just the plain old notion that other human beings are deserving of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. But not all have these attributes, and unfortunately, positions of political authority seem to attract the kind of person bereft of these good dispositions. History is replete with instances of monstrous brutality and evil tyranny directed at others by fellow human beings occupying high places of power.
Adolf Hitler, Joseph Stalin, Mao Zedong, Pol Pot, Genghis Khan, Ivan the Terrible, Emperor Caligula, Maximilian Robespierre, Vlad the Impaler, Saddam Hussein, Vladimir Lenin, Chiang Kai-shek, Kim Il-sung, Attila the Hun, Queen Mary I, Bloody Mary, Benito Mussolini, Idi Amin, Ho Chi Minh, Nicolae Ceausescu.
And so I could go on ad infinitum. Lacking empathy and compassion, such monsters can give the appearance of morality, kindness, and a benign personality, but underneath are empty of such things. Fiends who have no soul. And these individuals are perfect for a prison planet such as we live on. Feckless individuals who are nothing short of quislings in this age of deception, selling out the ordinary folk of this sorry existence to the overlords of this dark simulation. Evil doesn't have to turn up in the form of a goose-stepping soldier or an official coming to your door wearing jackboots. No. To understand how COVID policies and other such outrageous laws, so evil and cruel in their essence, so neo-fascistic in their context, to understand how these laws could be enacted, we must understand this. Evil can come in the form of a well-dressed man or woman wearing a smile. One of the things I wonder about when it comes to this separation is, what's the common denominator which decides whether a person remains asleep or becomes awake? What distinguishes us apart? We kind of asked this question in the last video. How is it that some are given a new robe or avatar, while others are denied it, destined to be recycled back into the simulation? Well, honestly, I don't know. What I do understand is that these seals are meant to wake us up, at least the first 4 seals, the 4 horsemen. I can only assume that it must all depend on the level of awakening a soul undergoes during previous lifetimes, and is accomplished in such a way as to weaken the memory wipe process after death, which is a big wake-up call, by the way, to where the seals become effective in stirring us out of our slumber. Once awake, our perceptions can no longer be so effortlessly manipulated. We are not so malleable as we used to be. We break pattern, as Archaics describes it, and become errants who go against the programming. We become non-compliant, non-conformist. We continually step out of line and therefore become useless to the simulacrum. And we are ejected, in a manner of speaking. 16 years from now being 2024, the Earth is going to experience a global event known as a pole shift. This is going to be caused by the return of a largely unknown planet named Pheonix, followed 6 years later by another wanderer, planet Nibiru. How do I know this? Well, Jason Bashir's of Archaics, if he is correct, a collection of prophecies foretell it, ranging from the New Testament, specifically the book of Revelation, to the French prophet Nostradamus and English prophetess Mother Shipton. Now, we've been looking at this event from both the perspective of the writer of the book of Revelation via the 6th seal and the various quatrains of Michel de Nostradam. But as promised, it's now time to look at the prophesied pole shift in 2040 from the perception of one Ursula Sonthile, otherwise known as Mother Shipton. Now, as a brief recap, Mother Shipton, born Ursula Sonthile in 1488, is one of England's most famous prophetesses. According to legend, she was born in a cave in Knaresborough, North Yorkshire, and was reputed to have had the gift of foresight. Ursula is best known for her forecasts, which were published posthumously and are often characterized by their poetic form and cryptic language. Many of her predictions are said to have come true, contributing to her enduring legacy in English folklore. Her life and prophecies remain a blend of historical fact and myth, making her a fascinating figure in British history. A few of the prophecies thought to have come true include the Great Fire of London in 1666, the defeat of the Spanish Armada in 1588, as well as the advent of modern technology. Now, there are those who believe that Mother Shipton was nothing but a fable, and many of her prophecies were written after the event, reducing the phenomenon of prophecy to the realm of wishful thinking. However, this theory would be difficult to maintain if the prophecies concerning the Pheonix prove to be true, because the event is yet to take place. And if they are true, they will take place within the lifetime of many today. So let's step back in time and look at these enigmatic predictions and see how they align with both the book of Revelation and Nostradamus. I'm the Grumpy Grandpa.
And now a word in uncouth rhyme of what shall be in future time.
Mother Shipton's Yorkshire prophecy contains 167 lines of text in the form of a rhyme, which begins, "And now a word in uncouth rhyme of what shall be in future time." So this makes it obvious that we are looking at a future date, and what follows are a series of revelations. In line 5 we read, "All England's sons that plough the land shall oft be seen with book in hand." This is talking of the explosion of literacy that would take the world by storm. Now, you must see this in the context of the Middle Ages, when reading was restricted to the few educated souls. Then we have another one. "A carriage without horse will go, disaster fill the world with woe." Horseless carriages are taken for granted today. But what would the mind of a peasant conjure up during those days, hearing of carriages driven without horses? Unthinkable. "Around the world men's thoughts will fly." Now this must be self-explanatory to us today. Radio, television, the internet, all of this was foreseen by Ursula Sonthile, if the prophecies are true. "In water, iron then shall float, as easy as a wooden boat." And there are many other interesting prophecies, all of which can be substantiated either today or historically. Then on lines 70 to 75, a noticeable change takes place. The first and only time in the poem, Ursula gives us an actual date.
In 1926, build houses light of straw and sticks. For then shall mighty wars be planned, when fire and sword shall sweep the land.
Mother Shipton saw the truth about World War II and how it was planned and financed by dark forces, globalists and international bankers with an agenda. Jason Brashears describes how that only specialist literature tell us of hundreds of millions of people who died, many post-war, as huge populations of civilians in Germany vanished, taken by the Russians. Millions of Russians vanished, and many millions in Eastern Bloc nations also were exterminated in China and Southeast Asia. All this, of course, was ignored by the Western media. This monstrous war was planned and financed back in 1926, where Mother Shipton dates it.
When pictures seem alive with movements free, when boats like fishes swim beneath the sea, when men like birds shall scour the sky, then half the world, deep drenched in blood, shall die.
This is how the war was fought, on ships, in planes, and submarines, all being recorded on film for posterity. This is the reality of this wretched existence. Depopulation is always the plan of the global elites through perpetual war, among other methods. But as interesting as all this is, we are concerned with only one event, the predicted pole shift. This begins with line 80. For those who live the century through, 2040 is 100 years from 1940. So just as death and destruction were carried through 1940 to 1946, so too will ruin, death, and destruction follow 2040 through to 2046 and beyond. Here are the relevant verses from the poem.
For those who live the century through, in fear and trembling this shall do. Flee to the mountains and the dens, to bog, and forest and wold fence. For storms will rage and oceans roar, when Gabriel stands on sea and shore, and as he blows his wondrous horn, old worlds die and new reborn. A fiery dragon will cross the sky. 6 times before this earth shall die, mankind will tremble and frightened be. For the 6th heralds in this prophecy, for 7 days and 7 nights, man will watch this awesome sight. The tides will rise beyond their ken, to bite away the shores, and then the mountains will begin to roar, and earthquakes split the plain to shore, and flooding waters rushing in will flood the lands with such a din, that mankind cowers in muddy fen, and snarls about his fellow men. He bares his teeth and fights and kills, and secrets food in secret hills, and ugly in his fear he lies. To kill marauders, thieves and spies, man flees in terror from the floods, and kills, and rapes and lies in blood, and spilling blood by mankind's hands will stain and bitter many lands. And when the dragon's tail is gone, man forgets, and smiles, and carries on, to apply himself, too late, for mankind has earned deserved fate.
When Mother Shipton writes, "Old worlds die and new be born," she is referring to the Great Flood of 2239 BC, when the Pheonix appeared for 7 days before the Great Flood. She refers to the cause of the cataclysm as a fiery dragon, which mirrors the early descriptions of comets and other celestial bodies at that time. Her description of this as being the 6th visitation of the sky dragon is suggestive of the 6th seal of Revelation, which describes the Pheonix visit of 2040. Here's a reminder of the 6th seal.
And I beheld when he had opened the 6th seal, and lo, there was a great earthquake, and the sun became black as sackcloth of hair, and the moon became as blood, and the stars of heaven fell unto the earth, even as a fig tree casteth her untimely figs, when she is shaken of a mighty wind. And the heaven departed as a scroll, when it is rolled together, and every mountain and island were moved out of their places. And the kings of the earth, and the great men, and the rich men, and the chief captains, and the mighty men, and every bondman and every freeman hid themselves in the dens and in the rocks of the mountains, and said unto the mountains and rocks, Fall on us, and hide us from the face of him that sitteth on the throne, and from the wrath of the Lamb. For the great day of his wrath is come, and who shall be able to stand?
Jason tells us that Mother Shipton's birth in 1488 was 138 years before Pheonix would enter the inner solar system again in 1626. This was an unseen event because it did not transit the sun, and so was essentially invisible. A further 138 years later brings us to 1764, when astronomer Hoffman was amazed to see a gigantic planetary body pass over 1/5 of the surface of the Sun, travelling on a north to south orbit, unlike any other known planet orbiting the Sun. It was also seen by people all over Europe with the naked eye. And in 1764, the orbits of Earth and Pheonix began realigning as they always did prior to a global catastrophe. Then in 1902 it returned, with meteorologists around the world reporting strange cosmic phenomena. Dust, dirt and mud rained from the sky in the hundreds of millions of tons, even from clear blue skies. Huge fragments of this large object cast shadows over cities and whole regions of the earth. And of course, 138 years later, it will be 2040, the year of the sixth seal. Like Nostradamus, Mother Shipton also wrote about the return of Nibiru 6 years later.
And when the dragon's tail is gone, man forgets, and smiles, and carries on. To apply himself, too late for mankind has earned deserved fate. His masked smile, his false grandeur, will serve the gods their anger stir, and they will send the dragon back to light the sky. His tail will crack upon the earth and rend the earth, and man shall flee, king, lord and serf.
Jason tells us in his book, Nostradamus and the Planets of Apocalypse, that the last time Nibiru passed through the inner system was in 1314 AD, after orbiting the Sun for 60 years, before returning to the Kuiper Belt for a further 732 years, until its 2046 return. Now, the total orbital time of Nibiru is said to be 792 years, according to these calendars. In 1314, Nibiru appeared as a great black darkness that blocked out the stars, and the east was affected by meteoric rain, quakes, and floods. Jason believes that in 2046, Nibiru will push the Earth closer to the Sun, shortening the solar year from 365.25 days to 240 days. And being closer to the Sun, the Earth will rotate faster, shortening the length of day and night. Nibiru is also seen in the book of Revelation, which is found in the first 4 trumpets. Revelation chapter 8.
The first angel sounded, and there followed hail and fire mingled with blood, and they were cast upon the earth. And the third part of trees was burnt up, and all green grass was burnt up. And the second angel sounded, and as it were a great mountain burning, with fire was cast into the sea, and the third part of the sea became blood. And the third part of the creatures which were in the sea, and had life, died. And the third part of the ships were destroyed. And the third angel sounded, and there fell a great star from heaven, burning as it were a lamp, and it fell upon the third part of the rivers, and upon the fountains of waters. And the name of the star is called Wormwood. And the third part of the waters became wormwood, and many men died of the waters, because they were made bitter. And the fourth angel sounded, and the third part of the sun was smitten, and the third part of the moon, and the third part of the stars, so as the third part of them was darkened, and the day shone not for a third part of it, and the night likewise.
Jason insists that wormwood is Nibiru, and this is going to be a great source of contamination, which Mother Shipton describes thus. And they will send the dragon back to light the sky. His tail will crack upon the earth and rend the earth, and man shall flee, king, lord, and serf. She is describing the earth passing through the tail of the dragon, which will cause contamination in the rivers, etc. Now, I think there is little doubt that all these prophecies speak of the same thing, a twofold cataclysm occurring in the near future, and one which the elites are preparing for. Is it possible that the establishment has knowledge of what is to come because they have secretly discovered these 2 wandering planets, but have kept this information from the rest of us? I would not put it past them. While I was preparing for this episode, I experienced another quite amazing synchronicity. I was going through my YouTube subscriptions to see if there were any I wanted to unsubscribe from. All channels that no longer uploaded videos. And I came across a channel which has been dormant now since 2017, but one I had watched regularly with great interest. And looking through the old videos posted by the channel owner, I came across one that, although recorded in 2010, perfectly addresses the subject matter we are dealing with in this series. I am still reeling from this synchronistic revelation. Now, I'm not going to deal with this right now. There's simply no time. But I will examine it in the next episode, where I will try to break down the relevant information. Much has happened since 2010. Also, I stated earlier that I believe most people to be good folk, possessing good, normal human qualities. That's true for most ordinary times. But, and this is a big but, these are not going to be ordinary times. Sometimes even good folk can become infected with vertigo, what the Native Americans call mind virus, and go mad. Once again, 2020 was a tipping point. The mainstream media was used to turn citizen against citizen, neighbour against neighbour, friend against friend, with the COVID hysteria. Some ordinary folks quickly became monsters, some wearing nice suits, and others beautiful dresses. They turned on one another, and it was all planned. We witnessed global cruelty in the form of medical fascism and other mandates that separated people who were family members or once close friends, but no longer. Even good people can turn bad under the right circumstances. Imagine what we will do in a state of emergency such as a pole shift, creating empty grocery shelves, empty gas pumps, and empty hearts. No clean water or other essentials for life. Mother Shipton saw it.
And flooding waters rushing in will flood the lands with such a din, that mankind cowers I muddy fen, and snarls about his fellow men. He bares his teeth and fights and kills, and secrets food in secret hills, and ugly in his fear he lies. To kill marauders, thieves and spies, man flees in terror from the floods, and kills, and rapes and lies in blood, and spilling blood by mankind's hands will stain and bitter many lands. And when the dragon's tail is gone, man forgets, and smiles, and carries on, to apply himself, too late, for mankind has earned deserved fate.
These are not going to be normal times, and man will turn against man, just as we are doing now, but with greater ferocity. He bares his teeth and fights and kills. In 1963, a Yale University psychologist by the name of Stanley Milgram devised an experiment that turned out to be one of the most famous and controversial studies in the history of psychology. The study was designed to investigate obedience to authority, specifically how far individuals would go in obeying an instruction by a person of authority, even if it involved harming another human being. What they found was astonishing. 65% of participants continued to administer what they believed to be shocks up to the highest level of 450 volts, despite hearing the screams of pain and pleas for the experiment to stop. Now, these were actors, but the person administering the voltage didn't know that. The presence of the authority figure and the pressure to obey played a crucial role in the participants' willingness to continue administering shocks, even when they were uncomfortably doing so. What does this tell you about us? History has shown time and again what we are capable of. This experiment remains a pivotal study in the field of psychology, highlighting the powerful influence of authority on human behavior. And this is why we must be careful who we give this authority to, because we just can't trust ordinary people in extraordinary times. The pandemic saw a great evil emerge, and I don't think we are done with it. Scientists saw just how far ordinary people will go when told by the authorities and the legacy media. Don't leave them out. We tend to lose those kind and moral dispositions we spoke of earlier, which are replaced by fear and terror. Against the hopes of the elites, the jab didn't manage to totally wipe out man's ability to reproduce, though births are down 13 to 20%. But the same monster is coming for us in 2024 via plans for digital currency, 15-minute cities, the confiscation of land, the debanking of well-known figures for no other reason than their political or medical views, though this has been stopped for now, but they still tried it, and I'm sure will try again. And there are climate-related lockdowns or restrictions under discussion even now, all aimed at restricting movement and freedom. I don't think we have seen the end of this evil. There are clearly a group of powerful people planning a reduction in human population via attacks on our food supply, plans to inject mRNA into cattle, the shifting from meat to lab-grown meat, to eating insects, to handing over national health rights to the unelected World Health Organization, and who continue to divide us and destroy unity. All this before 2040. No, evil is not done with us. And when the dragon's tail is gone, man forgets and smiles and carries on to apply himself. Too late, for mankind has earned deserved fate. How quickly we forget what we do to others and then try to justify our wrongdoing. Too late. Until the next time.